Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. Today we are going to complete our remaining portion of the population genetics topic. Uh, in today's lecture, we will be discussing the non-random mating and its types, then changes in allele frequencies and the factors affecting the allele frequencies. So, non-random mating uh, has few types, and first one is the positive assortative mating. And this type of mating, individual with like characters mate with each other. For example, humans exhibit positive assortative mating for height, and in this mating, tall people mate preferentially with other tall people, and short people mate preferentially with other short people. And second type is negative assortative mating, and it refers to a tendency for unlike individuals to mate. And if peoples are engaged in a negative assortative mating for height, then tall and short people would preferentially like to mate. So next is the inbreeding. Inbreeding is also a form of non-random mating, which is preferentially mating between related individuals. So inbreeding is actually positive assortative mating for relatedness, but it differs from other types of assortative mating because it affects all the genes, whereas uh, positive and negative, in the case of positive and negative assortative mating, only few genes for few traits are affected. So inbreeding causes a departure from the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium frequencies, and these frequencies are p square, 2pq, and q square. Next is the outcrossing, and outcrossing is the avoidance of mating between related individuals. So inbreeding is measured by inbreeding coefficient, and this is designated by capital F, and which is a measure of the probability that two alleles are identical by descent. So we know that in diploid individuals, two copies of alleles are present in each individual, and they can be same in state, or they can be if they have say alike structure and function, but their origin is not common. And alternatively, these two alleles can be same because of the identity by descent, and this means that copies of the alleles are descended from a single allele that was present in a common ancestor. So if we go back far enough in time, many alleles are likely to be identical by descent, but for calculating the effects of inbreeding, we consider identity by descent by going back to only few generations. So in this figure, we have ancestral population, and in this ancestral population, there are three alleles: A1, A2, and A3 allele. And in the homozygotes in the population, in the present population, if A2 is a homozygote, in this individual, A2 alleles are coming from two different sources, so this is said to be identical by descent. But in the second case, A1 allele is coming from a same ancestor, so these alleles are copies of this ancestral allele, so in this case this is identical by descent. So inbreeding coefficients can range from 0 to 1, and a value of 0 indicates that mating in a large population is random, and a value of 1 indicates that the alleles are identical by descent. So inbreeding coefficients can be calculated from analysis of pedigrees, or they can be determined from the reduction of the heterozygosity in the population. So when inbreeding occurs, the frequency of genotypes will be calculated by using these three formulas. So with inbreeding, the proportion of heterozygotes decreases by a factor 2fq, and half of this value, which is fpq, is added to the proportion of each homozygote, because this is decreasing and this one is decreasing, and this they are also increasing. So a time will come when this heterozygote will be 0, and then in the population only homozygous alleles will be present. So now consider a population that reproduces by self-fertilization and F is equal to 1, and in this we assume that this population begins with genotypic frequencies in Hardy-Weinberg proportions. While selfing, each homozygote will produce alike individuals in both cases, in capital A's and small a. But when heterozygotes will reproduce, they will mate and they will get there will be only half of the individuals in the progeny will be like the parental individuals. So selfing therefore reduces the proportion of heterozygotes in the proportion by half with each successive generation until all genotypes in the population are homozygous. So inbreeding increases the percentage of homozygous individuals in the population. So this is the percentage of homozygous individuals. These are the number of generations. So if first cousins are mating, then its homozygosity is less. But when self fertilization is done, then F is equal to 1 and number of homozygotes is almost 100%. So in this table we can see that with each successive generation heterozygous individuals are decreasing, and this frequency of heterozygotes is decreasing. So in this case we can see that in the first generation it is 1 by 2, but in the next generation it is going down to 1 by 4 and then 1 by 8, 1 by 16, and similarly a point comes when frequency becomes 0. So for most outcrossing species, close inbreeding is harmful because it increases the proportion of homozygotes and thereby boosts the probability that deleterious and lethal recessive alleles will combine to produce homozygotes with a harmful trait. So now assume that a recessive allele small a causes a genetic disease and has a frequency of 0.01. So if the population is mating randomly, F is equal to 0, then the frequency of individuals affected with the disease will be Q square and it will be 0.001. So only 1 in 10,000 individual is having the disease. But if F is equal to 0.25, so then the expected frequency of the homozygous genotype will be 0.0026. So this indicates that the genetic disease is 26 times as frequent at this level of inbreeding. So this increased appearance of lethal and deleterious traits with inbreeding is termed as the inbreeding depression. So the more intense the inbreeding, the more severe the inbreeding depression. The harmful effects of inbreeding have been recognized by humans for thousands of years and are the basis of cultural taboos against mating between the closely related individuals. William and James found that for each 10% increase in the F, the mean IQ of Japanese children drops to by 6 points. So the child mortality rate also increases with the close inbreeding. Children of first cousin have 40% increase in mortality over that seen among the children of the randomly mated individuals. So inbreeding also has a deleterious effect on the crops and domestic animals. So in this table we can see that when first cousins are mating, then F will be 0.0625, and with this F mortality rate is almost 11.4, and when unrelated individuals are mating, then it drops to 8.2%. And in this figure we can see that when inbreeding is done, then average yield of the crop is also decreasing. F is increasing and yield is decreasing, and inbreeding also causes inbreeding depression, And inbreeding depression is when related closely related individuals are mating and fitness is becoming less. So now changes in the allele frequencies. The Hardy-Weinberg law indicates that allelic frequencies do not change as a result of reproduction. Thus, other processes must cause alleles to increase or decrease in frequency. So, the processes that bring about the changes in allelic frequencies include mutation, migration, genetic drift, and natural selection. So, first of all, the mutation. Before evolution can occur, genetic variation must exist within a population, and consequently, all evolution depends on processes that generate genetic variation. And although new combinations of existing genes may arise through recombination in the meiosis, all genetic variation ultimately arises through mutation only. So, the effect of mutation on allelic frequencies. The mutations can influence the rate at which one genetic variant increases at the expense of another. So, now let us consider an example. A single locus in a population of 25 diploid individuals, and each individual possesses 2 alleles at the locus under consideration. So, the gene pool of the population consists of only 50 allelic copies, and assume there are 2 different alleles, G1 and G2, and their frequencies are small p and small q. So, if there are 45 copies of G1 and 5 copies of G2 in the population, and frequency will be 0.9 and 0.1 respectively. Now, suppose that a mutation changes, a mutation occurs, and that mutation changes G1 allele to G2 allele, and after this mutation, G1 allele has now 44 copies and G2 allele has 6 copies. The frequency of G2 has also increased from 0.10 to 0.12. So, if copies of G1 continue to mutate to G2, the frequency of G2 will increase and the frequency of G1 will decrease, and the amount that G2 will change, and that is delta Q, as a result of mutation will depend on the rate of G1 to G2 mutation, which is mu, Greek letter mu, and P, the frequency of G1 in the population. So, when P is large, there are many copies of G1 to mutate to the G2 allele, and the amount of change will be relatively large. So, as more mutations occur and P decreases, there will be fewer copies of G1 to mutate to the G2. So, the change in G2 as a result of mutation equals the mutation rate times the allelic frequency, and that is delta Q is equal to mu into P. So, now so far we have considered only the effects of G1 to G2 forward mutation. So, reverse is also possible, and G2 can mutate to G1, and mutation rate then will be the nu. So, which will probably be different from the forward mutation rate, that is mu. So, whenever a reverse mutation occurs, the frequency of G2 decreases and the frequency of G1 increases. So, the rate of change due to reverse mutations equals the reverse mutation rate times the allelic frequency of G, and that is delta Q will be equal to nu into Q. And the overall change in the frequency is a balance between the opposing forces of forward mutation and reverse mutation, and that will become delta Q is equal to mu P minus nu Q. So, in this figure it is shown that when G1 is mutating to G2 and then G2 is mutating to G1. So, when forward mutation increases the frequency of G2, but when reverse mutation also occurs, there is a point is reached which is equilibrium, when both rates are equal. So mutations are occurring, but there is no net change in the mutation in the allele frequency. So at equilibrium, the allelic frequency do not change even though mutation in both directions continue. So now when reaching equilibrium of allele frequencies, eventually the number of genes undergoing forward mutation will be counterbalanced by the number of genes undergoing the reverse mutation. So at this point, the increase in Q due to forward mutation will be equal to the decrease in Q due to the reverse mutation, and there will be no net change in the allelic frequency, and Q will be equal to 0. So in spite of the fact that forward and reverse mutation continue to occur, the point at which there is no change in the allelic frequency of the population is referred to as the equilibrium point. So now coming towards the factors determining allele frequencies at equilibrium. So we can determine the allele frequencies at equilibrium by manipulating the equation, and this is the equation that delta Q is equal to nu p minus mu p minus nu Q, and we know that 1 minus p is equal to 1 minus Q. If we know the frequency of Q, we can calculate the frequency of p. So because total of both frequencies is 1. So now substituting this 1 minus Q for P in the above equation, we can manipulate these equations, and finally we will get a point where Q hat equals the frequency of G2 at equilibrium, and this final equation is telling us that the allele frequency at equilibrium is determined solely by the forward and reverse mutation rates. So as it is clear in this figure that allele frequency of the G1 allele increases when frequency of the other allele is decreasing, but when an equilibrium point is reached, then both are equal. So the mutation rates for most genes are low. So change in allelic frequency due to mutation in one generation is very small, and long periods of time are required for a population to reach mutational equilibrium. For example, if the forward and reverse mutation rates for alleles at a locus are given, and they are 1 into 10 to the power minus 5 and 0.3 into 10 to the power minus 5 per generation respectively, the rates that are actually, and these rates are actually measured at several loci in the case of mice, and the allelic frequencies are 0.9, p is equal to 0.9 and q is equal to 0.1, then the net change in the allelic frequencies can be calculated by using this formula, and this will be the allelic frequency net change in the allelic frequency per generation due to the mutation. So now next is the migration. So another process that may bring about change in the allelic frequencies is the influx of genes from other populations. So commonly this is known as the migration or the gene flow, and one of the assumptions of Hardy-Weinberg law is that migration does not take place, but many natural populations experience migration from other populations. The overall effect of migration is twofold, and it prevents the genetic divergence between populations, as well as it increases genetic variation within populations. So in this figure we can see that there are two populations, P1 and population 1 and population 2, and they have their respective allelic frequencies also. So when migration occurs from population 1 to population 2, then their allelic frequency will change, and we can use a formula, this formula, q prime 2 is equal to q1m plus q2 into 1 minus m, for calculating the allele frequency after the migration, and m is the fraction of individuals that have migrated from population 1, and 1 minus m is the fraction proportion of individuals that are resident of the population 2. So the change in the allelic frequency due to migration, delta Q, will be equal to the new frequency of allele, new frequency of allele small a, and this is Q prime 2, Q2 prime, minus the original frequency of the allele Q2. So this one. So we determined, we have already determined in the previous slide that Q2 prime is equal to this one. So substituting this value this value into the preceding equation, we can get this form of the equation. This is very simple transformation. So when we'll expand the term, then we will get this term, and finally this will be transformed into this Q is equal to Q1 m minus Q2 m, and then m is Q is equal to m into Q1 minus Q2. So previously in the previous slides we have looked at the unidirectional migration, but in this figure we are looking at the multi-directional migration. So there are three populations, population A, B and C, and they have their own allelic frequencies, this and this one frequencies, and we are also having the proportion of individuals that are migrating from different populations to other populations. So for example, this MAC is the proportion of individuals that are migrating from the population A to population C. So in this case we can transform those formulas, and we can get the frequency of small a allele after migration by using these formulas. So the overall effect of migration has two major effects. First is that it causes the gene pools of populations to become more similar, and second effect is that migration adds genetic variation to the populations, and different alleles may arise in different populations owing to the rare mutational events, and these alleles can be spread to new populations by migration, increasing the genetic variation within the recipient population. Now next is the genetic drift. The Hardy-Weinberg law assumes random mating in an infinitely large population. Only when population size is infinite will the gametes carry genes that perfectly represent the parental gene pool. But we know that no real population is infinitely large, and when population size is limited, the gametes that unite to form individuals of the next generation carry a sample of alleles present in the parental gene pool. So just by chance, the composition of this sample may deviate from that of the parental gene pool, and this deviation may cause allelic frequencies to change. So the smaller the gametic sample, the greater the chance that its composition will deviate from that of the entire gene pool. And in this regard, we can look at an example of coin. So if we flip a coin, so each time we have a 50% chance of getting heads and 50% chance of getting a tail. So if you flip a coin 1,000 times, the observed ratio of heads to the tails will be very close to the expected 50-50 ratio. So but if however we flip a coin only 10 times, then there is a good chance that we will get not exactly 5 heads and 5 tails, but rather maybe 7 heads and 3 tails, or 8 tails and 2 heads. So this kind of deviation from an expected ratio due to limited sample size is referred to as the sampling error. And a sampling error occurs when gametes unite to produce progeny. When there is population is small, then there is a chance that this sampling error will occur, and they will produce progeny. And many organisms produce a large number of gametes, but when population is small in size, a limited number of gametes unite to produce the individuals of the next generation. So chance influences uh, which allele are present in this limited sample, and in this way sampling error may lead to change in the allelic frequency, and this is known as the genetic drift. This change in the allelic frequency because of the sampling error is known as the genetic drift. So because the deviations from the expected ratios are random, the direction of change is unpredictable, but we can predict the magnitude of these changes. So magnitude of the genetic drift. So amount of sampling error resulting from genetic drift can be estimated from the variance in allelic frequency, and we know that variance tells us the variation among the allelic frequency. So it is a statistical tool. So suppose that we observe a large number of separate populations, each with n individuals and allelic frequencies of small p and small q. After one generation of random mating, genetic drift expressed in terms of the variance in allelic frequencies among the populations will be is equal to pq divided by 2n. The amount of change resulting from genetic drift is determined by two parameters, and they are allelic frequencies p and q and the population size, which is n. So genetic drift will be maximal when p and q are equal, which means that they are having frequency of 0.5, and when the population size is very small. So for ecological and demographic studies, population size is usually defined as the number of individuals in a group. The evolution of a gene pool depends, however, only on those individuals who contribute genes to the next generation. So usually population size is defined as the equivalent number of breeding adults, and this is known as the effective population size and indicated by NE. So one factor besides several other factors is the sex ratio. When the numbers of males and females in the population are equal, the effective population size is simply the sum of reproducing males and females. But when they are unequal, then the effective size population can be calculated by using this formula. So this formula can be used to calculate the effective population size. We just have to put the values and then we can calculate the effective population size. So this table is also showing the effective size in some theoretical populations consisting of 100 individuals, and each with a different sex ratio. For example, if sex ratio is 1, it means that both male and females are equal, then effective size will be 100. But if these sex ratios are different, so in the case, for example, if males are 90 and number of females is 10, then it will be 36, and similarly if males are 10 and number of females are 90, even then it will be 36. So causes of the genetic drift. All genetic drift arises from sampling error, but there are several different ways in which sampling errors can arise. So first is, a population may be reduced in size for a number of generations because of limitations in space, food, or some other critical resources. Second way is that sampling error can arise through the founder effect, which is due to the establishment of a population by a small number of individuals. And third way is that genetic drift arises is through a genetic bottleneck, which develops when a population undergoes a drastic reduction in population size. So these are the three ways which are causing the sampling error. So now effects of the genetic drift. So genetic drift has several important effects on the genetic composition of a population, and in this regard, first one is it produces changes in allele frequencies within a population because drift is random. Allelic frequency is just as likely to increase as it is to decrease and will wander with the passage of time, hence its name genetic drift. So and the second effect is a second effect of genetic drift is to reduce genetic variation within populations, and through random change an allele may eventually reach a frequency of either 1 or 0, at which point all individuals in the population are homozygous for one allele. And when an allele has reached a frequency of 1, we can say that it has reached fixation. So in this figure, we can see that there are 5 populations: population 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, and there is an allele A2. So when they started, the frequency of allele A2 was 50%, but with the passage of time, after several generations, uh, alleles have been fixed. Population 1, allele 2 has been fixed in the population 1, and allele A1 has been fixed in the population 5. So the third effect of genetic drift is that different populations diverge genetically with time. So if we look at this figure, after several generations, uh, alleles have diverged. They started with the frequency of 0.5%, 0.5 for each allele, and this is the example of allele in the Drosophila, and in this population 8 males and 8 females were present, and after 17 generation the allele frequency has drastically changed, and both alleles have diverged. So this is the third effect of genetic drift. So now coming towards the natural selection. Natural selection, a final process that brings about changes in allelic frequencies, is natural selection. The differential reproduction of genotypes. Uh, Natural selection takes place when individuals with adaptive traits produce more offsprings. And if the adaptive traits have a genetic basis, they are inherited by offsprings and appear with greater frequency in the next generation. And a trait that provide a reproductive advantage thereby increases over time and enables populations to become better suited to their environment, to become better adapted. So natural selection is unique among evolutionary forces in that it promotes the adaptation. So in this figure, you can see the polar bears, and they have adapted to that cold environmental conditions. So this is an example of the natural selection. So now coming towards the fitness and selection coefficient. The effect of natural selection on the gene pool of a population depends on the fitness value of the genotype in the population. So fitness is defined as the relative reproductive success of a genotype. So here the term relative is critically important. So fitness is the reproductive success of one genotype compared with the reproductive success of the other genotype in the population. So fitness is indicated by W, and it ranges from 0 to 1. And suppose the number of viable offsprings produced by 3 genotypes is that there are the three genotypes, and mean number of offsprings produced are 10 for A1 genotype, 5 for A1A2, and 2 for A2A2. And to calculate the fitness for each of these genotypes, we take the average number of offsprings produced by a genotype and divide it by the mean number of offspring produced by the most prolific genotype. And in our case, most prolific genotype is A1A1. So fitness can be calculated, and we have calculated that fitness for A1A1 is W1W1, and it is equal to 1. And fitness for A1A2 is 0.5, and fitness for A2A2 is 0.2. So we usually speak of selection for a particular genotype, but always keep in mind that when selection is going on for one genotype, so this selection is automatically against at least one other genotype. So the fitness of the genotype A1A1 is designated W11, that of A1A2 is W12, and that of A2A2 is W22. So a related variable is the selection coefficient, and it is indicated by small s. So which is the relative intensity of selection against a genotype. So the selection coefficient is equal to 1 minus W. So the selection coefficients for the preceding three genotypes will be 0, 0.5, and 0.8 for three genotypes respectively. The general selection model. So the differential fitness among genotypes over time leads to changes in the frequencies of the genotypes, which in turn lead to changes in the frequencies of the alleles that make up the genotypes. So we can predict the effect of natural selection on the allelic frequencies by using a general selection model, and this selection model is given in the next slide. So in this table we can see that there are three genotypes: A1, A1, A1A2, and A2A2. So initial genotypic frequencies are Hardy-Weinberg frequencies, and their fitnesses are also given W11, W12, W22, and proportionate contribution of genotypes in the population are also given, these three values. And then relative genotypic frequencies after selection can be calculated by using these formulas. And in this table, formulas for calculating changes in the allelic frequencies with different types of selection are given. So there are different types of selection. First one is the selection against a recessive trait, then selection against a dominant trait, selection against a trait which is with no dominance, and selection against both homozygotes, which is also known as the overdominance. Their fitness values are also given, and then formulas are given for calculating the allele frequency of Q. So we are not going to going into detail of deriving these formulas. We can just use these value by putting these values in these formulas, we can calculate the frequency change in the frequencies. So the result of selection, the results of selection. So the results of selection depend on relative fitnesses of the genotypes. If we have three genotypes, A1, 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 A2, A2, A2 with fitnesses W11, W12, and W22, we can identify 6 different types of natural selections. So in this table, 6 types of selections are given. So in the case of first type, it is selection against recessive allele A2. W11 is fitness of W11 is equal to W12, and we can see that as a result of this fitness, A1 increases and A2 decreases, whereas in the case of second type of fitness, A2 is decreasing and A2 is increasing and A1 is decreasing. And similarly, all other four types, in all other four types, we can look how the fitness of different genotypes are affecting, and what are the results of these changes on the allele frequencies. So the rate of change in allele frequencies due to natural selections can be seen in this figure. Dominant alleles increase rapidly through selection because both the homozygote and the heterozygote are favored, because in the case of dominance, both homozygous dominant and heterozygous condition, they are both conditions are favored, so allele frequency of these in this case is more, whereas in other two cases it is less. So this is the case of dominant allele, and when incomplete dominance is present, the allele increases at a very low rate. So this is for incomplete dominance, and in the case of recessive, it is even less. So here the change in the frequency of an allele is shown in different types of dominance with the constant selection coefficients. So now coming towards the mutation and natural selection. So recurrent mutation and natural selection act as opposing forces on detrimental alleles, and mutation increases their frequency and natural selection decreases their frequency. So eventually these two forces reach an equilibrium um, in which the number of alleles added by mutation is balanced by the number of alleles removed by the selection. So now coming towards the summary of today's lecture. So in this table we can see the effects of different evolutionary forces on allelic frequencies within different populations. So mutation, migration, genetic drift, and natural selection, they all have short-term effects as well as long-term effects. So short-term effect is the change in allele frequency, but in the long-term effects, mutation is having equilibrium reached between forward and reverse mutations in the case of mutation, and in the case of migration, equilibrium reached when allelic frequencies of source and recipient population are equal, and in the case of genetic drift, fixation of one allele occurs eventually, and in the case of natural selection, when directional selection is the long-term effect, fixation of one allele, and when over dominant selection, equilibrium is reached. So in today's lecture we have seen about the forces that are affecting the allele frequencies in a population, and hope it is enough for today. So if you have any question, you can ask on during our online question answer session. Thank you.